ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। ओम श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं। परमानन्दमाधवं परमानन्दमाधवम्। ॐ वाङ्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्म एधि वेदस्य माणिस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधीतेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्माम् अवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा जिह्वे पिबस्वामृतमेतदेव गोविन्द दामोदर माधवेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। हे कृष्ण हे यादव हे सखेति। श्रीभगवानुवाच प्रजहाति यदा कामान् सर्वान् पार्थमनोगतान् आत्मन्येवात्मना तुष्टः स्थितप्रज्ञस्तदोच्यते श्रीभगवानुवाच प्रजहाति यदा कामान् सर्वान् पार्थमनोगतान् आत्मन्येवात्मना तुष्टः स्थितप्रज्ञस्तदोच्यते. Supreme Consciousness Bhagwan Krishna, starting from verse 55, for the next 18 verses, elaborates upon the man of realization. Man of realization means a person whose intellect has become firm in the subject of the self, supreme consciousness, who has got absolute clarity in the subject of supreme consciousness or the self. He's become what? Firmly abiding in the self. He's a man who is reveling in himself. Talking about the qualities of such a man, Bhagwan starts with the first thing as a definition of such a man. And Bhagwan says what? In the verse number 55, which we left in the last session. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan kaman manogatan prajahati. As an effect. Now remember, this verse has to be split into two parts. Cause is what is Bhagwan has mentioned in the third quarter of this particular verse. Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. That is the cause. And the effect which is seen physically is that yada sarvan manogatan kaman prajahati. This man of realization, this person, sthita prajna, which Arjuna has asked in verse number 54, and Bhagwan is trying to explain this particular verse. That sthita prajna, a man of realization, a man of wisdom, a realized master, a man who's got firm abidance in the self, or Atmanishtha we call it in Sanskrit, or a man who is reveling in the self all the time, not coming and going reveling, what we are talking about here. Bhagwan says his effect which we see physically at the level of the world, at the level of transaction level of the world, is what? Sarvan manogatan kaman prajahati, crosses over all the kinds of desires which had entered the mind in his lifetime, in the span of this lifetime and in the past lives altogether. When this person, and as an effect what we see is all the kinds of desires which have entered the mind of such a person in the past lives and this life, wherever he has lived, and whatever desires could enter the mind of a person in this at the level of world, all those kind of desires this person has crossed over. Prajahati, prakarshena jahati. And remember, jahati means to cross over. Prakarshena jahati means not that crossover to come back again. Not that I'll give up now and I'll pick up again afterwards. No, not that kind of. That is only jahati. That is crossover, that you cross over in such a way that you can come back here. His level is what? Prajahati, prakarshena jahati. Means crossed over forever. Never looks back at these kind of desires ever. And the cause of this Bhagwan has mentioned here is Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. This man, why he is able to reach that level that he could cross over all the kind of desires which could arise in this world, as which could be part of this whole creation. There are so many gamuts of things available in this creation one can run after in terms of desires. There are so many things available, so many varieties available in this creation. Whether we talk about in the Einsteinian world of time, space and object, there are so many objects, so to say. With the advent of technology and the improvement and upskill of the technologies, is we can see as the technology improves, there are so many new things coming up in the world of technology itself, and the old things are also being given new look. They are polished in some different way, marketed in a different way altogether. There are so many exciting things, so to say, in the world which are available. But this person is such a one because his fulfillment is not from the world of objects anymore. Why? Because as a cause here, there is a word here, eva. That's very important, right? And Bhagwan will use this word eva at many places. Eva means his fulfillment is in the self alone. he does not see any kind of happiness in any other objects in this world in totality. His fulfillment permanently is with the self, in the self, with the self. And I gave you one Granth Sahib's quote there. It's also, from Sanatan scriptures also, Granth Sahib had picked it up from there. What the quote was Ram Rahiya Mera Saiya, Ram Rahiya Bharpur. Aapai Rasya, Aaparas, Aapai Ramanhar. This is the level of a man of realization, as Granth Sahib also picks up. What does he say? Ram Rahiya Mera Saiya. He is reveling. This person, this man of realization is reveling. Where is he reveling? And what is the kind of reveling in the self is spoken about? Ram Rahiya Bharpur. Reveling all the time. Completely reveling in the self. And what is what is he reveling upon? And he is understood that it is the all-pervading self which is seated as his own self. That's why the word it's coined there is Aapai Rasya. Yeah, he is the one who is reveling. Aap Ras. He is reveling in himself. He is the bliss himself. And Aapai Ramanhar. And he is the one who is enjoying through all these things. So this is the level which Granth Sahib picks up in terms of, Sanatan, the man of realization we speak about. So that's why it's very important to understand Atmani eva Atmana Tushtaha. And I gave you one thing before I ended the last session, and just see the level of us. Because that's how the comparison between a man of realization will come, because Arjun's question is, how does this man of realization and is seen in this world? What is his definition? How does he walk about? How does he sit? How does he speak in terms of what other people speak about him and what he himself speak about himself in terms of its own level of achievement? So that's why Bhagwan said, Atmani eva Atmana Tushta. Now coming back to people like us, our state of affairs is, we today, because we have not understood the self, we have not known the self, we are ignorant about the self. Why I'm saying these words? Because from the self itself, this whole creation comes about. The entire gamut of this is, Einsteinian world of time, space and object arises out of the self. So, we people are like that we try to look for or satisfaction or fulfillment or contentment in this creation, not in the creator who is sitting as the self within us. The reason why we look for this kind of a thing is because we are ignorant about the creator, ignorant about the self. Now this man of realization is clearly understood about the self, has got clear doubt-free knowledge, error-free knowledge about the self. Not only that, is progressed in that knowledge in terms of gaining firm abidance in the self. Firm abidance in the self, to start with, I spoke to you in the last time. The entire population we can split into three portions at this moment. Coming to explain this particular verse here. One is the man of realization, which Bhagwan himself has defined. The second level is of the seeker. And I spent a lot of time in the last session trying to explain it to you. When we get the knowledge, we have got the knowledge, we have to work on it to make it error-free or doubt-free. We have to work hard, going to our guru again and again, picking up scriptures and clarifying our doubts. Why? Because our doubts or errors which are there in what we gained are the stumbling blocks for us to gain a firm abidance in it. We cannot live a knowledge unless and until that knowledge in us, post gaining, has become completely doubt and error free. We have to work towards removing all those errors. That's what moves this person from gaining the knowledge into firm abidance. As and when the errors and doubt starts to become clear, starts to become free from that error and doubts, our abidance starts to increase. And from knowledge, we have to reach the level of abidance. And abidance is what is going to give us the final ultimate result what Bhagwan is talking about in terms of man of realization. So the second level of people who have gained the knowledge or who are working towards gaining the knowledge also, we will put them into the category of seekers. So I told you one thing when I picked up the verse 54 in the last to last session also. Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji has highlighted it. The man of realization's properties or qualities are expounded by Bhagwan here, explained by Bhagwan here, not to give a certificate to a jnani, not to give a certificate to a man of realization. They are actually sadhana for us seekers. For what? After gaining the knowledge, move ahead and gain firm abidance in the self. As we start to gain abidance in the self, remember in that journey, one more thing which is important is, initially to start with, when our knowledge starts to become doubt-free or error-free, we will gain abidance for some time, come back to the world, abidance for some time, come back to the world. It will continue for some time. As we progress further, we will reach a level which Bhagwan is mentioning here as the property of a man of realization. We will reach a stage where we'll see complete fulfillment in the self. And at that point in time, the entire Einsteinian world of time, space and object will lose its charm for such a person. They no longer will offer any kind of fulfillment to this person at all. They lose their entire luster. They lose the attraction power for this particular kind of a man. Why? Because we are unfulfilled today. Unfulfillment in us is actually the ground where the seed of desire sprouts. Desires arise in only an unfulfilled mind. A mind which is fulfilled, the way to see such a mind is that desires will stop to arise. The sprouting of desires will stop completely. What I mentioned in the last session also, that in such a person it will become like a desert land, or a land which is not fertile at all for any kind of seed of desires to sprout. So this is the kind of a situation of a man of realization. And the third category to bring up so that we can come back to this level is, third category is of normal people like us, who today also have not understood the self, have not known the self, have not understood the actual nature of the self, not even got the knowledge of the self. That's why we try to seek fulfillment in the world. And the worldly fulfillment is such that, Bhagwan also said it in verses after 39, Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kuru nandana bahushakha hi anantascha buddhayo avyavasayinam. He said there, our buddhi keeps, our intellect, buddhi keeps running after many things, so to say. We decide to go after one object first. Once we reach there, we come to know that no, this is not the fulfillment I was looking about. Then mind starts to look for another object where we can get that fulfillment which we wanted. Reaching the another object, there also once we reach there, after gaining the object, we feel that I'm not fulfilled yet. So our journey of seeking fulfillment has not ended. Since it has not ended, that's the reason of many desires sprouting out inside us. And we, one after another, keep moving from one to another and another to another and all. And as Bhagwan said, Bahu Shaka hi Anantascha, such a person, what happens once takes a resolve to work towards an object of fulfillment, and that from there itself many further branches sprout out. No, if I have to reach there, I have to do this also, I have to do this also, I have to do this also. So it sprouts out into many different branches. Bahu Shaka hi Anantascha. And his desire is also Anant, and from there also many branches sprout out. So life is completely gone in running after them, and at the end of the life we realize that fulfillment never came from there, because the point is we were searching for fulfillment at a wrong place. I told you one thing, from where a thing has arisen, his fulfillment lies there. Our Antakarna down in the BMI chart, B, M and I and below, they are born out of Prakriti. So their fulfillment will come from Prakriti. in the next verse, when we speak about when Bhagavan says Dukkheshu Anudvigna Manaha, I'll pick up that word of Sukha separately there. And I'll explain you in detail what this Sukha and this entire nature of our intellect is about, and how our mind and intellect functions. And it is not unnatural to for the mind and intellect to run after there. But the point we don't understand is the soul of us has come from the supreme consciousness, so its fulfillment can never be from the Prakriti. Its fulfillment can only from where it has arisen. So since the soul has arisen from the supreme consciousness, the Om in the BMI chart, its fulfillment will also be there in the supreme consciousness alone. What has happened is, instead of understanding ourselves to be the supreme self or the supreme consciousness, we have mistaken, and we are living in a mistaken identity that we are the mind and intellect, we are the Antakarana. And then, since Antakarana's fulfillment comes from the Prakriti, the nature, we think that our fulfillment is also going to come from there. We haven't separated myself from my parts or from my equipments. I have considered my equipments as to be me, as it's me only. That is the mistaken identity we have. That's why it is said, unless and until we reach the identity of knowing the self or reach the knowledge of the self, permanent fulfillment is not possible for us in the world. So this person, this seeker, makes an effort towards this direction after gaining the knowledge to make his prajna, his knowledge of the self, firm. He continues his sadhana, he or she continues his sadhana, so that through practice, all the kind of doubts are removed, and I slowly, gradually walk towards or gaining the fulfillment. All the kind of knowledge which this person has gained through Praman Vyapar. Praman Vyapar means exchange of knowledge from Guru and scriptures. That's why, Shraddha's definition and mentioned in Tattva Bodh is Guru Vedanta Vakyeshu Vishwasa Shraddha. Shraddha is about faith in the words of Guru and the scriptures. So this person has walked towards gaining clarity with the Praman Vyapar, with the exchange of knowledge from Guru and the scriptures, and reached a level of making his mind, his intellect and his knowledge of the self completely doubt and error free. So the first quality which Bhagavan speak about for such a man of realization, and the cause which I told you now, is Atmani eva Atmana tushtaha. Now, this person has already gained the fulfillment in the self. So remember one thing, he has gained the fulfillment in the self first. Cause comes first and effect comes afterwards, right? So after gaining fulfillment in the self, this person reaches a level of, I don't see anything else, any other kind of fulfillment in any other objects at all. After reaching this level of fulfillment, this person becomes Atmaram. Ram actually means the one who does revel, one who revels in. That's why Ramji's name is like that, one who always revels in the Supreme Self. That's how the name Ram came. And this person is always reveling in the self, that's one. This person is always exploring the bliss of the self, always enjoying the bliss of the self. And in actual sense, this is actually the core property of a person who has gained the self-knowledge. And that's why Bhagwan Bhashyakar also said that, Pratyak Atma Swarupe Eva. We must give an attention to this particular word Eva, because Bhagwan is going to say this in many places. Bhagwan says it in the chapter 3 also. Yasyatu Atmarati Eva Syat Atmani Eva Cha Santushtaha. Bhagwan will say in the 3rd chapter, 17th verse also. Bhagwan is going to use this word Eva at many places. Because why this word Eva comes? In the initial stages of gaining knowledge, in the initial stage when we gain the self-knowledge, This reveling is not possible. Reveling doesn't happen in the initial stages. That's why Bhagavan says Atmani Eva. In initial stages, what happens? The world of desire also runs parallel with the world of supreme consciousness. Or I would use this way: the world of spirit, the spiritual world, moves parallel with the world of desires for us for some point in time. And slowly, gradually, the hold of world of desires on our mind starts to loosen up, and the hold on the knowledge of self starts to increase. The gravity of the hold of knowledge on the self, hold on the knowledge of self, starts to increase, and as it increases, the hold of the world starts to go down, starts to move away. So in the initial stages, this is reveling in the self is not possible. So we go into a samadhi state. For the person who gains the knowledge, practices first gaining that knowledge. I told you in one of the sessions before that there are three things which comes as we move through the knowledge. Actually, we'll take it up as we move along. I'll come back to that point. Let me just take this verse first. So what happens initially is gaining the knowledge. We have to start making the knowledge firm. We have to gain absolute clarity in that knowledge first. And as we gain more clarity, the abidance starts to increase. Like I'm giving you one example. A seeker initially, studies the scripture, studies or takes satsang under a guru, studies under a guru, or a disciple actually takes the tutelage of a guru and goes and does independent reflection also, comes back with the doubts. Some doubts this seeker clears from the scriptures itself. Those which are not cleared with the scripture, or the seeker gets confused with them, comes and sits under the lotus feet of a guru to actually resolve them. And as these doubts are resolved, this person starts to gain more and more abidance. Means what? When this person sits in the samadhi, in the dhyana avastha, the span of dhyana avastha starts to increase. As the doubts become less and less, the dhyana avastha starts to increase. And as the dhyana avastha starts to increase, the spiritual knowledge starts to become firm in this particular person. So the Raman also, or the reveling also, increases. At a later stage, when all the doubts are resolved, this person reaches a state where the abidance becomes longer and longer. And one stage comes when the abidance become total. Total abidance is what Bhagavan is mentioning here as Atmani Eva. He finds fulfillment in the self alone. For Bhagavan, Shankaracharya ji also uses one word here which I must use. Bhagavan says Alam Pratyaya. He starts to gain something called this Pratyaya, this kind of a thought process comes in. Alam. With the world and worldly objects, this person starts to gain this thought process that it's enough. I don't want this anymore. I had enough of this till now. And moving through all these things, his fulfillment is also so much complete that these kind of petty paltries, happiness and all doesn't excite this person also. That's why this Alam Pratyaya starts to rise in this person. Alam means it's enough. I don't want it anymore. And I gave you in the last session one example of a person who is a foodie also and eats lot of food and his stomach is completely topped up. There's a word which I told you. He is full with food up till the throat. At that time, if tasty food is kept in front of him, he will say what? Alam. That's enough. No, I don't need it anymore. The same Alam Pratyaya this person gains once he gains firm abidance in the self. There is one thing which I will bring out from Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji's movie The Quest, which is shown very beautifully there. There is a Pujya Gurudev goes to take one satsang in Chennai, and there is a student which comes to him at the end of it. So, sorry Gurudev, I missed your entire session, and can you just tell me how did you give up this world? So this kid is actually chewing gum. So Gurudev says, what's in your mouth? So he says, I'm sorry Gurudev, it's chewing gum. So when will you spit it out? So he said, when it loses its essence. In the same way, I chewed this world thoroughly and has spat it out. And this is the level of a man of realization Bhagavan Krishna is talking about here. He is thoroughly seen through the world and its hollowness of all the desires and what these desire fulfillment can give him. And now he's reached the stage that he no longer wanted, because he has already gained a higher level of fulfillment. In us also you see one thing, as we gain higher level of fulfillment, and the lower level of things which used to fulfill us up to a certain point in time, they lose their essence. In the same way, this man has reached the highest level of fulfillment. There the fulfillment, I'll use the word, is total. It's not a fulfillment which comes from the world of objects, like it comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. No, the fulfillment is total. And the best example I can give you, which I already spoke in the last session also, we must look at our Mahatmas who have lived in this world and gone from here, have attained Samadhi from here. 3 such Mahatmas I brought out in the last session one was Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi. If you see his life, he was always abiding in the self. Even and I told you about the 3 states, no? Waking state also, the subconscious state of dream state also, the unconscious state of deep sleep also. So, one person who has got firm abidance in the self, for him, there is no difference between the waking state, dream state doesn't come to that person. Deep sleep also is not required, because waking state itself is getting the bliss of the deep sleep state. That's why we coined a new term there. Not I coined a new term. Our scriptures have coined a new term there called Turiya Avastha. Always in the abidance of the self. Such a state that what benefit we reap from deep sleep state. Just think, for 6-7 hours of deep sleep state which we get, at the kind of solace we get, the kind of peace we get, the kind of energy we gain. Just think, this man of realization is 24 hours in that state. Not that he's sleeping all the time. Huh? And what deep sleep state does to us, this Mahatma in the waking state also experienced the same kind of a bliss. That's what one example I gave was Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi. There are so many things about Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi spoken about. Once he left home, he lived at this place called Arunachalam. Arunachalam is a hill which is in the form of a shivling. The parikrama of that mountain itself is supposed to be, very, very blissful, so to say. It's a great kind of a spiritual gain also for taking the parikrama of that place. Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi, ever since he left home, he stayed always in Arunachalam. He never came out from there at all. The second example I can give you is Ramakrishna Paramahamsji. You see his life also. He stayed in Kali Ghat. When I visited at the Kali temple once, when I had the opportunity to visit at Kolkata, I saw, his life has been a living example. It is said that he used to see Mother Kali all the time. It was that much of a divine connection he had. And Totapuri Maharaj gave him self-knowledge and he merged with the self. What a kind of a man of realization he was. I'll give you one story of him also. But once I come to the third Mahatma and I explain him, I'll come back to this point. The third Mahatma I speak about is of course, I can put actually the third and fourth, Swami Tapovanji Maharaj. What should I tell you? Pujya Gurudev himself used to say, Swami Tapovanji Maharaj was the guru of Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda. Pujya Gurudev used to say, the air you breathe in Sandipni is nothing but the tapas of Swami Tapovanji Maharaj. That was his devotion towards his guru. And Swami Tapovanji Maharaj also was called as Himavat Vibhuti. He was a walking consciousness on the earth. And that's how every Mahatma in Uttarkashi used to say about him. Every Mahatma in Rishikesh used to talk about him. Even Swami Shivananji, also when he gave sannyas to Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda and gave the name Swami Chinmayananda, he said, now I'm sending you to the source to gain the knowledge. And the source is Swami Tapovanji Maharaj. That used to be the aura of Swami Tapovanji Maharaj. There are many stories of Swami Tapovanji Maharaj also. when the right time comes, while explaining Mahatmas, I'll pick up such stories so that you also come to know. One story I'll pick up is of Swami Ramakrishna Paramhams ji. And when I talk about Atmani eva Atmana Tushtaha, Yada Sarvan Manogatan Kaman Prajahati, I'm giving you an example from there. Once, a saint went to Swami Ramakrishna Paramhamsi, and Swami Ramakrishna Paramhamsi used to stay at Kali Ghat. And Kali Ghat, adjoining Kali Ghat is the Mother Ganges, which is flowing in her full breadth and full force. On the other side, to cross over, or whenever Puja Swamiji Ramakrishna Paramji had to cross over, he used to take a boat. So this saint once came to Swamiji and said, Swamiji, what have you gained by doing all these things? Look at me. I can walk on water. I can cross the river on my own. I can walk over the river and cross over the river. Can you do it? So, Swami Ramakrishna Paramji laughed at him and smiled at him and said, no, I can't do it. So Swamiji posed a question to this saint and said, how many years did it take you to, practice this, cultivate this thing in gaining this capability of walking over the river or walking over the water? So he very proudly said, Swamiji, it took me 18 years of sadhana to actually walk over the river. Swamiji said, when I have to cross the river, I had to pay only 2 rupees to cross the river. And I cross the river maybe, once or twice in a month. So how much do I spend? Maybe once or twice in a month, if I calculate in a whole year, how much do I spend to actually cross the river? For that, gaining, saving that much amount of money, you wasted 18 years of your life. Alas, if you would have gained self-knowledge, where would have you reached? See, that's the level of a Mahatma, man of realization we talk about when we say Sarvan Manogatan Kaman and Prajahati. So this is the kind of, when we talk about the different kind of saints here, we are going to bring up while we take up these verses. There are many stories we'll try to bring up from there. So Bhagavan Krishna says, in such a saint's life, he's reached such a level of fulfillment that doesn't need to depend on anything outside to actually look for happiness. Bhagavan and Shankaracharya says, Bahya labha nirpekshaha paramartha darshana amrita rasa labhena. For paramartha darshana amrit, the vision of the self, or when we wake up to that state of consciousness, wake up to that level of consciousness of the self, of seeing the self everywhere, it's really called Amrita. It's divine bliss actually. And in comparison to that divine kind of a taste, divine kind of a bliss we feel, all the other objects in this creation loses its taste. Once we taste that supreme bliss, all the other kind of happiness driving objects lose its taste. That's why this jnani reaches a level of alam pratyayavan. See what Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, alam pratyayavan. See, the one who has wealth, we call him Dhanavan. One who has got intellect, we call him Buddhiman. One who has got fortitude, we call him Dhairyavan. The same way, here, the one who has that quality. Here Bhagavan says, Alam Pratyayavan. Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, this man has reached a level that he is filled with that thing in him, that he always sees that it's enough. The world I have got enough of this world. I need no more from thee. So, since he is already tushta, his cheshta, his chase towards the objects will stop. We run after desires. Why? Because we feel fulfillment in them. That's why we run after them. Since he doesn't see fulfillment in any of them, his chase after them will also stop. Now, he has already attained what is supremely fulfilling, called the self, and this person will try to remain in the self forever. this person will actually try to gain the abidance in the self forever, does not want to move around anywhere. That's what is meant by this particular line here. Many saints also talk about this in a way, Jab aave santosh dhan, sab dhan dhuri saman. They say that, when the wealth of fulfillment or happiness comes to us, all the other wealth becomes, loses its importance, becomes like dust particle for us, dhuri saman. And in the same way, this man of realization, because he's become alam pratyayavan, and he does not see any kind of happiness in anything else except gaining the amrit rasa. Amrit rasa means the divine bliss, except gaining the bliss of the divine. And this person does not see any other kind of taste in any other thing at all, in any other kind of happiness at all. And that's why loses attraction for this kind of a person. Now, one thing I wanted to bring out while I'll bring up here is Anand or happiness is something without which one cannot live. And I told you in one of the sessions before also, 3 things we are always working towards. And I spoke to you about this while I explained the verse 40 and 41. And when Bhagavan moved from Sankhya Yoga to Karma Yoga, I spoke about that particular thing. There are 3 things which we are all chasing after. One is, we are all working towards maintaining continuity of our life. We all want to remain alive. That's the first thing we are chasing for. Our every effort is that our life continuity should be maintained. The second thing we are running after is, or we are chasing is, sukha. We all want to be happy. Now, why I put it in this priority also, let me just say the third thing also, then I'll come back to this point. The third thing which we are all chasing is, actually we all want to be free. Freedom is the third thing which we are all working towards. Now, let me just pick it up in a little bit detail to come back to this particular point here. Now, we all want to maintain continuity of our life. And why I put it in the first number is, for maintaining continuity of life, sometimes we are ready to give up sukha also. That's why this continuity of life comes first. Why? Because this thought has been there in our mind that, so what if I give up this kind of happiness? If life is there, I can gain happiness later also. So sometimes I'm ready to give up sukha, I'm ready to give up happiness and gain sorrow, provided it keeps the continuity of my life there. The second thing which is of prima facie importance to us and we are all running after is sukha. This is what I said just now also. Without sukha, without happiness, none of us can live. So, there are many levels of happiness we talk about. Many people translate sukha at a different level as bliss. When the quantity of sukha increases, we call it bliss. We call it, but it's not really bliss in that way, but ananda is the higher level of happiness I can talk about, or more kind of a pragad anubhuti of sukha. More kind of a deeper experience of happiness can be called as ananda. To that level, not the Satchidananda level I'm talking about here. That is the bliss at the ultimate level. So we are all chasing sukha. Without happiness, if happiness continuously remains missing from our life, many a times we will feel that, is it really worth living also or not? We are breathing also because of wanting to gain ananda, because of wanting to gain in actually happiness. Now, this happiness is a natural demand of every being, not even human being. Because this is a natural demand of every being, we are constantly in search of things or situation which gives us this kind of happiness. That's why we search for situations which give us happiness. We demand objects which give us happiness. We want people who give us happiness. Nobody, in their life, if we really look at, Nobody in their life want to be devoid of situations which give you happiness. Nobody wants to be devoid of objects which give you happiness. Nobody wants to be devoid of people also which give you happiness. Even if sometimes we are forced by circumstances, and we have to become separate from them, and when you're forced by circumstances means sometimes because of inherent and aversions also we force ourselves to be separate from them. Remember, then we will look for a higher source of happiness first. And just think of a situation here. If for reasons outside of control we are forced to be away from the things, people and situations of our happiness due to inherent reasons, and we continuously search for a higher source of happiness, and after a period of search, if you are not able to find the higher source of happiness, then the other thing which will arise in us is called shoka. We will be sorrowful in us that I do not know why I lost them. Then there is something called shobha which will come in us. There is something called a kind of repentance which will come in us, a kind of depressive feeling which will come in us, a kind of things which will pull us down, that this source of happiness was there with me. I do not know why I did not make effort to find it. Why? Because after giving it up, I have not found a higher source of happiness yet. That's why. So we must understand, this happiness is not our hobby. It's our demand. It's our need. Just as food is not our hobby, it's our need. In the same way, this sukha or ananda is also our need. It's not something which is our hobby. Now, on the food front, since I said that food is also our need, but alas, people have reached a level that food has crossed the level of need and has gone into the need. From need it has gone into luxury and other things also. It has gone into hobby also. I'm not talking about that here. But sukha, the basic kind of happiness, is actually every being's need. The a jnani, a man of realization, and for him what has happened, that this jnani has already found a higher level of happiness, has already found a higher level of bliss, and in front of that higher level of bliss, the small kind of happiness loses its importance. So that's why his nirapekshta, his being devoid of the objects of desire, his prajahati yada kaman, is actually siddha, is actually established. Why? Because he has already found a higher source of happiness. Now, why I brought it up as a discussion here is that for a seeker, it is utmost important and fact that during the time of his sadhana, during the time when he's working towards his growth on the path of vertical growth, must always search for higher source of happiness. This is a condition for a seeker. A seeker must work towards constantly thinking about, constantly contemplating upon higher things, of higher states of ananda, higher states of higher sources of bliss, and not only look for them, also make an effort to hold on to them and continuously hold on to them, and continuously make an effort to hold on to them. Because those kind of things will only help this seeker grow in the path of spirituality. And when I talk about higher kinds of happiness may be happiness in satsang, happiness being derived out of reading good literatures, scriptures, happiness from our classical music, happiness from the things of art which are portrayed there, which are done from ancient times and all, which has got meaning behind it also. Now I'm giving you one example. People like our great saints and all, they had their own way of reveling in the self. Like Puja Swami Taponji Maharaji, Puja Maharashi Swami Taponji Maharaji used to do vihar. Vihar means he used to go and travel to Himalayas, go to Tirthan. I heard that every year he used to spend some time in Gangotri. There are many instances of him which he has had come across while meditating in Gangotri. There is a Tapovan Kutir in Gangotri also there, where Swami Tapovanji Maharaj used to go and meditate upon. It's, where the Gangotri temple is right across. There is a river which goes in between, crosses the bridge, and right across it there is a kind of a cave kind of a thing there, where Puja Maharashi Swami Tapovanji Maharaj used to go and meditate upon. So that's the kind of reveling the saints do actually. From that, what is the kind of motivation we get? We must understand one thing: mind cannot be devoid of happiness. That's one thing which we need to remember and put it in our head very clearly. And when I say mind cannot be devoid of happiness, which I mean is, mind cannot be devoid of happiness for a long period of time. For a higher period of time, mind cannot be devoid of happiness. So it is very important for us that we must look for source of happiness. Also try to improvise upon the source of happiness so that we keep moving higher and higher. I'm just giving you an example. Another example which can pop out from the real world is, COVID came and the lockdown happened. Just see the different kind of people. You see, there are people who spiritually grew also in that time. There are people who went into, wrong kind of habits also in that time. I'm just giving you one example. Don't, point me on the wrong and right and there. But I'm just trying to say, you see the online movie platforms, the OTTs, suddenly grew up in the time of the time of lockdown and all. And many people, because they do not have a higher source of happiness, they start to see happiness in watching movies and television series, and all those things went on. But remember one thing, with them, watching them and all could be a time pass, could be a temporary source of happiness. You cannot permanently watch them. But at the level of choice, they have actually fallen down. At that time, there are people who listen to satsangs, who listen to, YouTube satsangs going on, online things going on. They read scriptures, they gained knowledge also at that time. Some people did additional courses during that time, and they upskilled themselves at that time. They have all done positive things, but there are people who have done wrong things also, because we have not been taught correctly how to make choices in our life. Since nobody has guided us that thing, and we try to make choices as we understand, and it is known that our understanding most of the times is not complete, neither correct. Sometimes it can be. Sometimes we make right choices also, but unless and until we equip ourselves with the spiritual knowledge, choice making also is not an art which everybody can do. So that's the thing which a sadhak must do. That a seeker must use his intelligence to always try to explore the source of happiness, rather not only the source of happiness, higher source of happiness from where that sadhak, where the seeker is. And the highest source of happiness is nothing but Atmanand, or reveling in the self. Rest all are lower sources of happiness only, but amongst them also we can rank them according to their achievements which they give us. Now, in the external objects, some people do try to look for happiness there. Only after a point in time of enjoying them as a bhokta, we realize that that kind of happiness cannot be permanent, and that is what Bhagavan is talking about with this particular verse here. So Atmanand, or the bliss of the self, is the highest source of happiness, and it is completely, its nature is what? Completely free. Free means it's atyant swadhin anand. It's something which is completely with me. Why? Because it's why I'm always free to do that, and it's always experienced. Why? Because the self, the Atma, is always with me, and the kind of the bliss of the self is free. Means what? Is free from different states of us also. It is avastha the paradinta, or the binding of the avastha of the state. It's of mind is also not there, in there, then what to talk about the external kind of objects? Whether it is samadhi, whether that man of realization is in samadhi or the man of realization is transacting in the world, the self is always with us. The self is always there, always available. Well, when this kind of a state is established in someone, and when we are able to see this verse from the standpoint of a Mahatma who's attained that level, then at that level, we will see that this shlok, what Bhagavan has mentioned, is natural state of a man of realization. It is a natural achievement of a man of realization. When this man of realization's tushti or santushti is fulfillment is complete, is completely contented in himself, with his self, in himself, at that time, there is no need for any kind of desire to sprout out in that person and at all. I'll read two things before I move to the next particular verse. First is, let me pick up Bhagavan Shankaracharyaji's Bhashya word by word. Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, Prajahati Prakarshena Jahati. Prajahati means, Prakarshena Jahati means the one who has completely forever crossed over. Parityajati has given up. Yada Yasmin Kale. In whichever, Yada here Bhagavan means what? Whichever point in time this happens. And what happens? Sarvan Samastan Kaman Ichha Vedan. The person has given up Sarvan Samastan Kaman. All the kind of desires which were ever existing in that kind of the person. All the kind of different desires which were in that person. Hey Partha. I told you, hey Partha, Bhagavan is doing a Sambodhana Prathama there. Manogatan, Manasi Pravishtan, Hridi Pravishtan. All those kinds of desires which have entered the mind, Hridi Pravishtan, entered the heart, entered at the emotional level of this particular person, entered the mind and intellect of this person, and those kind of things have been given up completely as this person has crossed over. Now then Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji brings one point here which is very important, why I brought you back here. Bhagavan and Shankaracharya ji gives, if we see this kind of a situation that somebody has crossed over all kinds of desire, we may feel that this person is completely unnatural. It's an abnormal person. We may come to conclusion that this person, that means is an abnormal person. How can somebody live in this world without a desire? So Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji says, Sarva Kama Parityage Tushti Karana Abhava Sharira Dharana Nimitta Sheshecha Sati Unmatta Pramattasya Iva Pravritti Prapta Iti Ata Uchyate. When all kinds of desires are given up, and we see that the source of fulfillment also ceases to exist in the life of such a person, but this person has got a body and has got a prarabdha also. Means, even though we see that all the kind of causes of fulfillment has been given up by this person, he's given up all the kind of desires, but living is continuing, the life is continued because the body is there, prarabdha is there, life is continued, but desires have been given up. So we feel that prarabdha is there, the body is there, and then we may feel that is this person living like a mad person? That we see on the road there's a person living in desire. Also, we don't see many of them happening there. Of course, samarthya, the capability is also not there. That's a different thing altogether. Will this person be seen like that? Since such a doubt can arise in our mind that if a person who has given up all the kind of desires and we see that no kind of sources of fulfillment are available in this person's life, but the body is there and this person has got a life, has got a prarabdha, we may feel that this person is living like a mad person. To clarify that, Bhagavan has used a second half of this particular verse. That's what Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji explains. Atmani eva pratyagatma swarupe eva. This person Atmana svena eva bahya labha nirapekshaha tushtaha. This person is reveling, has found the source of fulfillment in the self. Pratyag Atma Swarupe Eva. His source of fulfillment is self alone. He is found the source of fulfillment in the self alone. Atmana svena eva. In the self itself, on its own, on eva bahya labha nirpeksha, without any cause of cause of gain remaining outside. Bahya labha nirpeksha tushta. This person is tushta, means fulfilled in the self without having any cause of gain lying outside. This person is fulfilled in the self alone. Paramartha darshana amrita rasalabena. He is enjoying the gain of the blissful gain of paramartha darshana, of the vision of the self. Oh my God, when you see the self, trust me, just remember, attach the quality of the self or the property of the self which Bhagavan spoke about in the previous verses. It's what? Sarvagataha, Sthanuhu, Achaloyam, Sanatanaha. Just see, when somebody is able to see the vision of the self which is all pervaded. Just see, when you see that light of that consciousness in front of you, where would you want to even see the things which are borrowing the light from this consciousness and trying to, like a small bulb trying to blow up somewhere? Where will you be attracted to those? Paramartha darshana amrita rasalabhena anyasmad alam pratyayavan. Because he's got the gain of the blissful vision of the self, anyasmad. For everything else, alam pratyayavan. This person will have enough. I don't want to experience or see them at all. It is better that I don't even come to that. And I told you one of the Mahatmas has said somewhere. I think I gave you the example of Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi only somewhere, where he says that I am seeing him more clearly than you. And he was talking to somebody who was standing right in front of him. That's the vision of a Mahatma. So he says, Anyasmad alam pratyavan sthita prajnaha sthita pratisthita atmanatma vivekaja prajna yasya sa sthita prajnaha. Bhagavan Shankaracharya is giving in this one, which he said previously also. So sthita prajna is who? Sthita pratisthita, whose intellect is firmly abiding in the knowledge of what is God. What? Atma anatma vivekaja prajna yasya sa sthita prajna vidwan tada uchyate. One says the one who's firmly abiding in the wisdom born out of atma anatma vivek, by is separating between by seeing clearly what is the self and what is non-self, and clearly identifying the self and non-self from the knowledge born out of the self-knowledge which is already gained. The Sankhya Buddhi is already gained. So he is able to abide in the knowledge of clearly clearly deciphering between the self and the non-self, and having a clear vision of that. At this person, yasya sa sthita prajna, that is whom is being called as sthita prajna. Vidwan tada uchyate. He is the one who is to be called Vidwan. Vidwan means intellectual, or Buddhijivi we call it. We call intellectual. Now he is the actual one who is a Vidwan, who is an actual intellectual person. Now here Bhagavan Shankaracharya uses one word. Tyakta putra vitta lokeshana sannyasi atmarama atma krida sthita prajna iti artha. Now there are three things I must bring up, why I brought it back to Bhagavan Shankaracharya's bhashya here. There are three kind of eshanas, there are three kind of things which we run after in our life. Putra, Vitta, Loka. There are three kind of eshanas, there are three kind of things which keep attracting us all the time. There are three kind of desires we always keep, three kind of goals we set also in our life. The three kind of attractions or three kind of desires we have is Putra. Putra means having progeny. I should have a family, I should have this, that and all those things. I should have a family lineage coming up. After me, my son or my daughter should take over and all those things. Vitta, wealth, the physical wealth we're talking about. I should have home, I should have my own home, I should have my own car, I should have bank balance and all those things. Vitta. Loka. Then the third thing which comes is I should be known in the society. I should have power in the society. I should be respected in the society. These three things pervade in all of us, to be honest with you. Is there in all of us. And who is a sannyasi? The one who has given up these three in totality. Tyakta, putra, vitta, lokeshna. The one who has completely given up these three kind of desires in total. Sannyasi, he is the one who is to be called a sannyasi. Sannyasi means samyak nesati, the one who has given up forever. Sannyasi. Atma Rama, Atma Krida. He is what? He plays. Atma Krida means he plays in the self, and Atma Rama means he revels in the self. He plays in the consciousness, he plays with the consciousness, and he always revels in the consciousness. He is the one who is to be actually coined with the word Sthita Prajna. Sthita Prajna means that only, iti arthaha. Now, I would also want to take up Pujya Gurudev's commentary, very important. I will just pick up certain things from there. You must all read it yourself. Pujya Gurudev brilliantly has written and things in this commentary. By narrating thus the inner and outer life of a man of realization, Gita helps us to detect for ourselves the right type of masters for the charlatans who, though wolves, wear a goat skin and enter the fold of the faithful ones. Apart from this, these passages have a direct appeal to all sincere sadhakas, in as much as this section gives to them an easy thumb rule as to what types of values and mental attitudes they should develop during their practice in order to realize the ever effulgent divinity within them. That is the pure awareness. The opening stanza in this section is a brilliant summary of all that we should know about the mental condition of a perfect one. The words used in this stanza can be understood fully only when we remember the significant fragrance of these words as they stand dancing among the hosts of other blossoms in the garden of the Upanishads. He is considered to be a man of wisdom who has completely cast away all desires from his mind. By reading this stanza in conjunction with what Bhagwan Krishna has so far said, we can truly come to enjoy the Upanishadic fragrance in these inspired words of Vedavyasji. An intellect that is contaminated by ignorance becomes the breeding ground of desires. And he who has relieved himself of this ignorance through right knowledge gained in perception naturally becomes desireless. By explaining here the absence of the effect, which I just spoke about when I was explaining, the Lord is negating the existence of the cause. Where desires are not, their ignorance has ended and knowledge has already come to shine forth. If this alone was the distinguishing factor of the man of steady wisdom, any modern man would condemn the Hindu man of wisdom as a rank lunatic, which is what Bhagavan Shankaracharya explained in his Bhashya. A Hindu wise man would then become one who had not even the initiative to desire. Desire means a capacity of the mind to see ahead of itself, a scheme or a pattern in which he who desires will probably be happier. The wise man seems to lose even this capacity as he goes beyond his intellect and experiences the self. This is a criticism that is generally heard from the materialists. This stanza cannot thus be condemned, since it adds in its second line that the perfect one is blissful in his own experience of the self. A perfect man is defined here therefore not only as one who has no desires, but also as one who has positively come to enjoy the bliss of the self. When one is an infant, one has one's own playmates. As one grows from childhood to boyhood, one leaves one's toys and runs after a new set of things. Again, as the body grows to youthfulness, he loses his desire for the fancy things of his boyhood and craves for yet a newer set of things. Again, in his old age, the same entity casts away all objects that were till then great joys to him and and comes to demand a totally different set of objects. This is an observed phenomenon. As we grow, our demands also grow. With reference to the new scheme of things demanded, the old sets of ideas come to be cast away. In one's ignorance, when one conceives oneself as the ego, one has a burning desire for sense objects, a binding attachment with the emotions, and a jealous preference for one's pet ideas. But when the ego is transcended, when the ignorance like a mist has lifted itself, and when the finite ego stands face to face with the divine reality in him, it melts away to become one with the infinite. In the self, the man of steady wisdom, self-satisfied in the self, can no more entertain any desire or have any appetite for the paltry objects of the body, of the mind, or of the intellect. He becomes the very source of all bliss. Such a one is defined here by Veda Vyasji as the man of steady wisdom, Sthita Prajna. And as the words come out from the mouth of Bhagavan Krishna, they gather the divine ring of an incontrovertible truth. That is what Puja Gurudev says in his commentary for this particular verse. Now let's move into the next verse, verse number 56. Another beautiful verse trying to explain the properties of a man of realization. Bhagavan Krishna gives this another pearl in this whole chain. Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha sukeshu vigata spruha vitaraga bhaya krodha stitadhir muni ruchyate. Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha sukeshu vigata spruha vitaraga bhaya krodha stitadhir muni ruchyate. Beautiful verse Bhagavan Krishna has given. Bhagavan Krishna says here, is talking about the man of realization. He whose mind is not shaken up by adversity and who in prosperity does not hanker after pleasures, who is free from attachment, fear and anger, is called a sage of steady wisdom. Now let's take verse, word by word here. There are a couple of things which I need to highlight here before I, explain it in entirety. But let's see what little meaning, what I just read from Puja Gurudev's commentary also, what it means here. Bhagavan says, Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha. The one whose mind does not get perturbed at the time when the sorrows come to him. Anudvigna manaha. His mind does not become udvigna. Udvigna means does not get disturbed. It does not get, into that thing of the sorrow, does not get affected for a long period of time. It does not, actually the word udveg, veg means to actually the pace, the speed is called veg. Ud means to throw. Now, dukkeshu anudvigna mana here means, when you see in ourselves, dukkha is something which our internal equipment antakarana, the moment it touches, wants to throw out. Like I'm giving you one example to explain it here. Puja Maharajji, Swami Subodhananji used to explain it very beautifully. Just take the example of eyes. Some dust particle has entered the eye, so to say. Entire body will concentrate on the eye and will make an effort to throw that particle out. Maybe I will generate tears. I will make a concentrated effort to throw it out. Right? The same thing goes if some, so to say, I have eaten something bad. The entire body will concentrate and will make an effort to actually throw that particle out. Now, another example I can give you. There are many examples I can give, but I will give you a couple of examples for you to understand. Now, just understand some bacteria or some virus has entered the body. What will body do? Body will go and fight that infection first at its level and make an effort to throw out that virus or bacteria outside. Only when the body is not able to do that, or does not have the capability to do that, that's when it reflects in us as illness or sickness or whatever, right? That's another example I can give up. While another example I can give you is while eating. For example, you see that you were eating and suddenly something gets stuck in the throat. Entire body will make an effort to either take it down or throw it out, right? So most probably the first attempt will be to throw it out if something gets stuck in the thing. That is what is meant by ut. Ut means to throw. Veg means with the pace it wants to throw. So the moment dukkha hits our antakarana, our entire body or our intellect and mind makes an effort to throw it out. So, udvigna means, getting perturbed means what? Makes a concentrated effort to throw it out, always struggles to throw it out. That is what is meant by udvigna. Manaha, for the mind. And what happens at the level of sukha? Sukheshu here, now I'm just explaining you, not vigata spriha here, but I'm just explaining you sukha and spriha here first. And on contrary to what I just explained about dukkha, at the level of sukha, what happens? I just told you while explaining the previous verse that sukha is something which is our basic need. All of us want sukha. So when the sukha comes in the antakarana, the intellect and mind makes an effort to hold on to it. That's what is meant by spriha. Spriha means what? Mind and intellect wants to hold on to it. The thing which is giving me happiness, we all make an effort to hold on to it so it continues to stay with us. So I'm trying to explain you the literal meaning first here. Bhagavan says, how is this man of realization here? Man of realization here is completely against the normal nature found in normal human beings. I just told you in the previous verse, Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji also, so that we don't end up thinking that this man is abnormal. And I'll give you one example to that. This abnormal thing. Puja Maharaji Swami Subodhanand ji was having a camp, satsang in Himachal at that time. And there was a lady from some college who came and she distributed some papers to the attendees of the camp. So Swamiji said, what is this? So she said, Swamiji, we are doing study on the psychology of human being as to how do they react and all. So in your place is people who are satsangi and all, they come. So we want to see we want to collect the answers from them as to how they will react in these kind of situations. So Swamiji said, so are you going to give it to me also? No, Swamiji, this is only for normal people. So Puja Guruji Swami Subodhanand ji said, what do you mean? And he gave a look to that Amma. So what do you mean? She understood that she said something wrong. No, Swamiji, I don't mean that you are abnormal. Swamiji, you are above normal, you see. Swamiji said, Amma, that sounds better to me. So, what happens is Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji also is using the same sentence here, that when we see that a man is living against the nature, and the nature is what? People live with desires and everything, we should not understand this man is mad. Is some lunatic or someone. So the same thing should not come into our mind. That's the reason I'm trying to explain you what Bhagavan also means here. Dukkheshu anudvigna mana is that it is natural phenomenon. It is our nature that whenever dukkha comes, our mind gets disturbed and makes an all-out effort to throw it away or distance itself from it. And in the level when the time when happiness comes, it runs all out to hold on to that source of happiness, because it wants to hold on to happiness actually. The source of happiness is being held on because mind has understood that as the cause of the happiness. That's the reason we run after the source of happiness. But actually, the effort being done is actually we were holding on to happiness. Mind holds on to happiness and wants to throw away the sorrow. But this man of realization is completely opposite to that nature. Bhagavan says what? Dukkheshu anudvigna manaha. He only watches the play of prarabdha going on does not make any effort to throw it away, does not run after it, his mind does not get disturbed or does not get overtly engaged in that at all. And when the happiness comes to such a man of realization, he does not chase to hold on to it also. That is why Bhagavan meant Dukkeshu Anudvigna Manaha and Sukheshu Vigataspraha. Is already moved away from such thing. Vigata means he's already gone over holding on to the happiness and getting perturbed by the, making an effort to throw away the dukkha. One thing which I wanted to say is many saints' life, when we must see their life to feel that. Many a times we have got this mistaken and thing that why Bhagavan is saying Dukkeshu Anudvigna Manaha. The first thing which comes in our mind will be what? Oh, so that means a man of realization also has dukkha coming to his life. So what did we think? We thought that spirituality is such thing that dukkha and sukha, dukkha will stop coming and sukha will be there permanently. I'm sorry, you have not understood the spiritual world then that way. Spirituality is not saying that you will get permanent happiness and you will get you will not have sorrows coming into your life. That's not what spirituality means. I told one thing which I mentioned in the group also. Spirituality is trying to give you or help you build something called spiritual stamina. Okay, I'm going to talk about 3 levels here also. At the level of Jnani, Bhagavan is saying what he's saying. At the level of seeker, how it works, and at the level of normal person, how it works. Normal person I already spoke about. Speaker I'll speak about. Normal person, what happens? And when the dukkha comes, the first effort is all-out effort to throw it out. Throw it out means remove it from there. The source is also supposed to work towards removing away from there, or we try to distance ourselves from that. And the time when the sukha or happiness comes, or there is always an effort to hold on to it. Now, see the beauty of Bhagavan here. I do not know what to say. What a beauty, what a kind of a teacher Bhagavan Krishna is. I always said one thing, I should bring it out here at the right moment itself. I said so many things about the beauty of student, beauty of Arjun as a student. And I said many things praising in the capability of the qualification of Arjun as a student. But I think I missed out one thing which I must bring out here now. You see the beauty of Bhagavan as a teacher. I don't know. I can never comprehend what kind of a teacher Bhagavan would have been. You see the supreme consciousness sitting there as a teacher, every word falling directly from the mouth of supreme consciousness, and you see being supreme consciousness above everything. You see how much effort Bhagavan is putting to teach this kid or teach this student. How much knowledge Bhagavan is making in, or giving to this particular student, qualified student of Bhagavan. What kind of a teacher Bhagavan is? I said the beauty of Arjun moving according to the context and according to the verse. Bhagavan is Sarva Sampan, Sarva Shad Aishwarya Sampan. He is always fulfilled and contented. He has nothing apart from him being everywhere, pervading everywhere. You see the beauty of Bhagavan. I said the beauty of Arjun following the topic and asking question. You see the beauty of Bhagavan. Bhagavan is following the question exactly the way Arjun asked. You see, Sthita Prajnasya Ka Bhasha. That's the first thing Bhagavan explained in the verse number 55. Then Arjun used a word as Sthita Dhihi, and Bhagavan used what? For Sthita Dhihi, Bhagavan answering the second verse, Sthita Dhihi Munihi Uchyate. Muni Uchyate. See, Bhagavan is explaining Sthita Dhihi here. So Bhagavan picked up Ka Bhasha, and Kim Prabhasheta as the first point. You see now here, Bhagavan is following taking the student with his question according to the way the question has been asked. And that's why I said there, Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. He is the Jagat's Guru. Now the beauty of Bhagwan as a teacher is, when Bhagwan teaches, he knows the level of every student he teaches. It's so crystal clear to him. I would say, I'm just trying to imagine with my limited intellect and limited dhi, if Bhagwan would have been sitting there in a class teaching students, we could probably see a picture of one Bhagwan sitting with each and every student. And trust me, let me tell you one thing. When I read Srimad Bhagavatam, and when the context of Ras Leela comes, I would say the real Ras Leela will be one Bhagwan with one student, trying to bless the student with the consciousness being giving the vision of that consciousness and giving abidance in the consciousness. Isn't that a real Ras Leela? Ras Leela also, many people when they explain Bhagavad, they have understood it also incorrectly. They have not got it themselves also, they explain it also incorrectly. I am not coming to that point. Ras Leela is not something which we can understand at a normal level, not at a worldly level. Pujya Gurudev used to say, Ras Leela is not the dance of Bhagwan Krishna, of a blue-eyed boy of Vrindavan dancing with the females differently dressed. It's not that. That's a highly mistaken understanding of Ras Leela. Ras Leela is actually the sakshatkar of the consciousness with the level, with different intellects and mind which have come to gain the vision of the self. That's actually the Ras Leela to talk about. Anyway, Bhagavan says, how is this man of realization? Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha, doesn't get perturbed, doesn't chase after dukkha. When dukkha comes also, he is equanimous. Remember, Bhagavan is talking about the equanimity in the last previous verses also. In the next verse, I'll bring out some verses which Bhagavan has asked you, samatvam and all those things. Sukha dukkhe samay kritva labha labho jaya jayo. Bhagavan has always been a proponent, always been propagating about bringing the samatva equanimity. Here Bhagavan is talking about what the Mahatma is displaying, what the man of realization is displaying. Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha. This man of realization is not is not moved, is not even touched a wee bit with the sorrow kind coming into him. Neither is trying to hold on to the kind of happiness coming to him. He is equanimous at the level of happiness also. He is equanimous at the level of sorrow also. Now Bhagavan comes to the next portion. There are more to it which I will take up in the next session, but I am just trying to complete the meaning of this particular verse first. Bhagavan says three things here, which is also very important to understand. Bhagavan says this person, of course, dukkeshu anudvigna manaha, sukheshu vigataspara, Bhagavan said that. Continuing with that, Bhagavan says, Vita raga bhaya krodha. Vita raga, vita bhaya, vita krodha. This person has already crossed over, has already given up, has already passed over, or what? Raga, attachment, bhaya, fear, krodha, anger. Now, coming to that point, let me just complete this verse in the literal meaning and then I will come back to that point. And such a person, Bhagavan is saying what? Sthitadihi. That person I will call Sthitadihi, the one who is established in the self, whose prajna, whose intellect is having firm abidance. Sthitadihi means who is firmly abiding in the knowledge of the self. And Bhagavan coined one more word for that such a person. I will call him Munihi. That's the person I will call as Muni. Muni actually in Sanskrit means Manana Shilvan. Out of Manan only he's got the firm abidance. Manan means reflection only, Just mere knowledge will not do it. So we need to move from Shravan, then to Manan, then to Nididhyasan. These are the three levels our scriptures talk about. they have got their own level of resolutions from that point in time, which I'll take it up in the next one. Bhagavan says, I am going to call such a person Munihi. I am going to call such a person Sthitadihi. Now, one thing before I complete the session for today, and this is a pointer for you all to take back and think upon. Remember one thing, this Raga, Bhaya and Krodha, which Bhagavan mentioned, we must see it in one light here. Whenever there is attachment to what? We need to connect it with a Sukheshu Vigata Spriha. When we try to hold on to Sukha, that's when something in us arises, that's called Raga, attachment. When we try to hold on to Sukha means what? We try to hold on to the source of happiness. And when we identify someone as the source of happiness, we would want to try to hold on to that source of happiness, and slowly, gradually, we will also generate something called attachment to the source of happiness, which is what Bhagavan coined here as Raga. Okay. Now, one thing we need to understand, when the kind of attachment is already there, and we have already gained attachment with someone, we have developed attachment with someone, then from attachment only, the next kind of vritti, the next kind of thought arises, that is called Bhaya, fear. What is the fear about? The fear is about losing that on whom I have placed my attachment, with whom I have attached myself. So there will always be a fear of losing that. And remember, I'm going to explain it in the next one only. And when somebody comes and becomes the reason of obstacle of attachment, of obstacle towards holding on to my Sukha, or becomes the reason of trying to create an obstacle in the thing of my attachment and making me lose that thing of attachment, the other thought which will arise in me is Krodha, anger. So remember, Rag is the primary thing. From Rag, only from attachment, Rag means attachment. Attachment is the primary thing. And before attachment is Sukheshu Uspriha, the kind of the attitude to hold on, the kind of desire to hold on to happiness is the first thing. From there the attachment arises. From attachment only the thing called fear arises, and then from attachment only anger also arises. Now you guys all take it back to you and think over it independently, and I will take up in detail in the next session. Kayena vacha manasendriyairva buddhyatmana va prakrite svabhavat karomi yadyat sakalam parasmai narayanaeti samarpayami Shriman Narayanayeti samarpayami. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shantihi Shantihi. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Om Tat Sat.